let's work on finessing the deformations we tweaked in the previous lesson. Now, the trickiest part here is weighting the jaw. However, we can get this done very fast by simply hiding a few faces on the lower lip. So let's go ahead and hide some of those polygons. Go back to layers so we can select the face. And now let's go to our polygon mode and grab our select tool. If the manipulator is getting in the way, feel free to hide it with Alt-D. Also underneath the Attributes Manager, I like to leave on Select Visible Elements. When doing this step, if we need to ever select through the mesh and grab points behind these polygons, we can go ahead and turn this off. So sometimes turning that off is useful, but for here, we'll go ahead and make sure that's on, so we could just make sure we're only grabbing these polygons on the outside. So just go through and shift select to grab them. Okay, great. Looks like there's just one more there to grab. And now we can head over to select and we'll choose hide selected. Great, there are a few more we can go in and hide. So let's shift select these and do the same thing. Select, hide selected. Beautiful. So watch this. Now if we need to reweight the upper jaw, let's go back to our model mode and grab our weight tool. We'll select the upper jaw, and now it's a lot easier to block in weight here. So just fill in those areas. We'll still keep our symmetry brush active. We'll just fill in these areas some more. We'll get behind the nose just to make sure those are fully weighted points as well. Great. Let's go ahead and take a look. We have a few points here around the eyelid that can be weighted. If it's hard to get to a certain point, all we need to do is just go to point mode, go to wireframe mode. Here are those few points here. So now this would be a perfect moment to use this visible element tool. We can go ahead and turn this off, and now we can go through and select those few points. If we select anything else, we could always control click to deselect. But now with those selected, we can use our weights manager to fix this. I'll just go to weights here. You can see we have access to all of our joints. I'll simply find the right list. Here's the upper jaw. And I'll make sure that these points are weighted to the correct bone. Now I would like to point out that if you're seeing more points than you have selected, just go to filters, go to this drop down, set this to selection, and then choose link selection. And that will only show you the points that you have in your selection, which is very convenient. So I'll just go to this point here that's set to 0 and set this to 100%. Great. You could also see I have normalize on just to make sure that we keep our weights from 0 to 100, that range and nothing more. So if we were to go back to our model mode, I'll press NB to go back to wireframe on shaded. You can see that that point has been filled in. Alright, so we have some points that we can remove weights from on the lower jaw. If we hold down Control, we can start to subtract weight. So we can remove the weighting from those points. Great. So now as we scrub, notice how much better that's looking. All right, we have a few more points here that we can go ahead and remove weight from. So we'll just go ahead and zoom in and carefully take care of those points. And there are some inside the mouth that we can weight back to the upper jaw, so we could just go ahead and take care of that, just filling those areas in. The inside of the mouth might seem tricky, but it's really not at all. It's just a matter of just going in and blocking and waiting and leaving it as that. There's no reason to smooth anything out in the inside of the mouth, especially if that's just going to be hidden. But if you find that there's a point that you might want to smooth, you could always set that to a weight of, let's say, 50% under options. We should be just fine just blocking and wait there. And now we can go ahead and move to the lower jaw. Take care of that. Go ahead and find it. There it is. So you can see we have this point here, a few points that are weighted to the upper jaw that will need to be tweaked. Feel free to go back to options on your weight tool and decrease your radius to take care of those smaller points. Much better. All right. So now, if we were to go ahead and take a look at this, things are looking much better. I might go ahead and take some of these points on the upper lip. Go ahead and go back to the upper jaw and just make sure that they are fully weighted to that bone. So as we start to scrub, we don't have any pulling. Not just yet. We could always smooth things out after. But we don't want any pulling right now. Okay, great. So next what you could do is just go in and select a few more polygons. Let's go back to our live select tool. And now the polygons we'll select will be for the upper lip. Let's go ahead and grab these. We can make sure that, again, select visible elements is on. Great. So if we were to go back to select, we can now choose unhide all and then choose hide selected to hide what we have just grabbed. And now it'll be much faster to paint the lower lip. All right, so let's go ahead and start tweaking that. We'll go to the lower jaw. There it is. Grab our weight tool and start to block and weight here. And once we're done with this, this will give you an idea of how to take care of other areas. Again, this is the trickiest part. But when it comes to the head and the neck, again, you just want to add some animation. So after we're done with the jaw, a good idea might be to add animation to the head where it rotates in the heading axis. And then you'll have an idea of how to weight to the head bone, as well as how to weight to the upper jaw and any other bones that you need to fix. Feel free to look at the final file, by the way, for ideas on how to weight certain areas, but it's really not difficult at all. And the great thing is that we're working with a low-res cage, so that helps to speed things up a bit. Okay, so we have a few points here that we can set to the jaw. It's looking better. These points here that are being pulled around the upper gums, we might go to the upper jaw and take care of those spots, just filling those in. Okay. So this is looking nice. Just looking for any other points here that might want to pull down, and I think that was really about it. Great. All right, so now we can go ahead and work on smoothing this out. So you have a few ways of doing this. You could either set your weight to 50%, keep the function set to absolute, and then you could start to paint 50% in, right at the corner, right at the side to smooth this out. So you can block in that way. And then you could go ahead and set this function back to add and set the strength to something very low, like 1%, and start to refine this even more. So if you feel that a point needs to be brought up, you could start to add weight to basically make sure that the topology flows very well. I might increase the strength to about 5%, take care of a few points underneath. And that's basically the process for cleaning this up. We'll want a little bit of pull on the lower lip, so we could start to add that. And the most important thing to remember here is to keep in mind your topology, just to make sure that everything will flow very smoothly. Because if we do not take that into consideration, it will show. Let's go to the lower jaw, and we can start to paint to it, smoothing out some areas at the top. Okay, we'll also add some weight on the upper lip. Let's take a look. We'll scrub through. That looks nice. And now it's time to bring back the upper lip. Very important. We don't want to forget about that. So let's go back to our poly mode, go back to select, and let's go ahead and choose unhide all. Okay, great. So now if we were to go back to our model mode, we can now grab the weight tool again, start to fix these areas up a bit more to smooth them out. All right, great. I might now go back to the strength and drop that to, let's say, about 2%, just to finish the upper lip. Beautiful. So in no time at all, we've managed to tweak the upper and lower jaw. If you were to go back to layers, you can go ahead and lock the face, select the upper joint there, press Alt-D to bring back your gizmo and start to rotate, and notice, take a look, that looks really cool. All right, so we have some very nice flexible looking results. And then you can test this out with your HyperNerbs node. So let's go to the model group. Let's make sure that we unlock the face. Go ahead and enable the smooth node and just take a look. We'll move the jaw around. Again, some really cool looking results. All right, so that just about finishes this lesson. Again, just double check the neck and head, make sure they're rotating and moving properly. The neck looks great. I don't think there's much to weight there. As far as the head bone, we can take a quick look. That looks awesome too, so you don't have much work to do at all. Beautiful. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and take care of any straggling points between lessons, and in the next lesson, we're going to go ahead and work on the eyelids.